right, and welcome to the conversation. This is Blacks and Jews in Conversation, Inc., and not just Blacks and Jews in Conversation. For those of you who have not been to one of our programs, welcome to the TV. Our special guest tonight is right to my left, Harley Lippman, who has his own company. I'm always sharing the spotlight with our own CEOs of other companies just to put us to shame. And as you can see, we're partnering up with Let Them Talk, with Joan Musi to the left of Harley, and at the keyboard tonight, at the controls, is none other than Paul DeRienzo. And I'm very happy to have him at the controls because I can relax for a change and come out from out under. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Paul to lead you all into this program. We're featuring Harley talking about Cambodia, which is coincidentally the subject right after the cyclone devastated Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. And the Burmese, of course, have been a mysterious people for quite some time, even before the current junta. And as an introduction to Harley, he's been a guest here before. Most welcome return.
Thank you.
He was the chair of the America-Israel Friendship League dinner, which was hosted last fall, and just got back from another mission by America-Israel to Israel, where he met with all the hoi polloi and the prime ministers and all the gendarmerie. And he'll tell you about that very briefly. Paul?
Well, that's the introduction right there. I guess if I was going to give any sort of introduction, it would be that, yes, today's May 6th. 2 days ago, May 4th, was the 38th anniversary of the shooting at Kent State, which happened just a few days after the Nixon admitted that the U.S. had illegally invaded Cambodia, which is the country we're going to talk about. It was soon after that Cambodia came under its sort of popular government was overthrown in the course of this invasion, and a government that masqueraded as a people's government called the Khmer Rouge came into power and then began to institute some very barbaric policies to, in part, undo the effects of the Vietnam War, which had forced many Cambodians into the cities, but doing it in the most brutal and abusive manner possible, leading to the deaths eventually of millions of people. And of course, Dith Pran just recently passed away, and his photographs and his reporting and the movie The Killing Fields, which many of you I hope have seen or should check out. You probably can get it in your local library and watch this incredible movie about the suffering that the people of these wonderful people of this ancient society, and we're going to see a video, and Harley, who's been there, is going to tell us a lot more about that. So just as some background, where it's just an appropriate time to start talking about Cambodia and some of the wonderful work that Harley has done in Cambodia. So I'm going to throw it to you, Harley, and Joan Musi, of course, my partner from Let Them Talk, who's right behind us, and you can tell us some more. And we're going to watch your video, which is a brief but very interesting video about your trip to Cambodia, and I'll let you explain the whole story.
One of your trips to Cambodia.
Yes.
Because this is not just a single experience for you, but something that you've really committed to.
Yes. I go back every year with my family. The idea is we want our children not to grow up with an attitude of entitlement. We want to inspire them to give back, to understand truly how fortunate they really are, and to learn to help others. And that's very important for us. So we hope we're achieving that, and we're going back to Cambodia actually in another month.
Oh, all right. You're ready for the annual trip.
That's
the
right.
The cyclone just hit. The weather isn't so
well,
stable, right? You never know what's in the works here. You know.
You can't do anything about it, you can control, so I don't think about the weather, but we're looking forward to going back and seeing the children of this orphanage that we care about a great deal, and are just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful children.
Now that is your particular interest, is one orphanage in
Yes.
Cambodia. I mean, you have a wider interest in the culture and the country and your connection through other things that we'll talk about, but in particular, you're interested in one orphanage, and you're following that every year, revisiting that area.
Well, you want to make a difference if you can, and very often when it comes to philanthropy or charity, people write a check. which is important and is something that is needed.
We take checks.
I'm sure you do. But we wanted to do something more about giving of ourselves, rolling up our sleeves, being involved and doing more than writing a check. And that amounted to going there. We spend time teaching the children English. And why English? They're just outside of Siem Reap, which is where you have the ancient temples like Angkor Wat, which is one of the more famous ones. It's considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. And there are a lot of tourists there. So if these children can learn English, they could get jobs from just even being in a restaurant to being tourist guides, where right now they're at the bottom rung of society, being orphans.
It's an added skill.
It's a tremendous added skill, English being the universal language of the world today. So that's the objective. And then when we leave at the end of June, we provide
How long do you stay?
Close to 2 weeks. And what we do is we provide a teacher, a Cambodian teacher who stays and teaches them English. So that's the idea.
How long did you stay in Israel?
Now you're shifting digital. You have to explain to the viewers what that means. You're throwing this out of
You went on a mission to Israel, with
On a mission, it sounds-
fact-finding mission between America and Israel. You didn't stay 2 weeks.
6 days.
6 days.
Yeah.
So you gave Israel 6 days, America and Israel 6 days, and Cambodia with orphans, you give 2 weeks.
Pay for the children, Shannon.
There you go. That's right.
Tell me a little bit about Harley Lippman. Tell me a little bit about Cambodia. What's it like when you step off the airport? What are the people like? And tell me about some of the places. Tell us about some of the places you visited when you were there, as well as the orphanage and the work you've done there.
Well, I'll focus on the children for a moment because I think they're symbolic of the people in Cambodia. These children appreciate everything. They are grateful for anything. You know, sometimes people have told me where they've helped children or other people in other organizations in the United States or in other countries, and it's always a wonderful endeavor to help needy children. But there's something special about these children here because they're so appreciative. If you give them a pencil or a pen, they can't stop thanking you, and they really appreciate it. They have this tremendous sense of gratitude and humility, and it just rips your heart out in a just a wonderful way.
Well, you're a generous guy. You gave the last show you were on here, you gave the, went all the way to Poland and commissioned Torah, and you gave that to the whole community. You had thousands of people participating in that. So you're going to go all the way to an orphanage in the middle of I don't know what wilderness in Cambodia. You're going to find people. Did you see the movie The Painted Veil?
No.
Oh, you would love it. Anybody, Paul, Joe?
haven't, no.
It takes place in China in the 1920s, in the middle of an outbreak of cholera. This doctor schleps his wife from London society to this orphanage the orphans left from the parents who died from cholera. And they're the same type of kids who are singing around a piano, desperate for any kind of love and so on. We had a guest, Erwin Corey, when we shared shows, who grew up in an orphanage. Kids in an orphanage, they want something. They're desperate for some kind, like your puppies in a puppy mill. They're looking for something. And I can understand, the picture you're painting. You don't have to go all the way to Cambodia to paint the picture. I mean, right now they wiped out Rangoon, one of the major cities of Burma. It's just been wiped out. You don't even hear the whole story about the news.
Because of the cyclone.
So I can understand it. But do you speak Cambodian? How do you communicate?
Khmer, Cambodian. The language is called Khmer. No, we do not speak the language.
How do you communicate with them?
Well, we have a guide who translates for us, and that's how we do that. And the children are learning English, so you could have some dialogue. It's difficult. It's at a very basic level.
Well, it must be more and more over the years as you go back, since
Yes.
certain children have studied consistently over
That's
that
right.
period of
It's getting
time.
better and better.
Well, it seems like a great time to ask how you got involved with Cambodia particularly. Like, what is it about the country of Cambodia that spoke to you for you to pursue an interest and find a project there and to feel such a connection?
Well, Cambodia suffered a Holocaust like the Jews did. They lost.
Like Paul mentioned.
That's right, exactly as Paul mentioned. They lost millions of people, and Jews had a Holocaust where Jews lost millions. And this is the month. This is the Yom HaShoah. This is when the Holocaust is commemorated every year at this time. And so I felt a connection to the Cambodian people. And as you'll see in the video, I feel as a human being, as a Jew, and as an American, I wanted to do something where I gave back, and did it in a way where it's just giving. And I wanted to do it where there was some connection with anyone who suffers anywhere in the world, and especially of this magnitude that the Cambodian people have suffered. It's just terrible. And some of these children are orphans because their parents were killed by the Khmer Rouge, the communists who murdered millions of people. As Paul said, they emptied the cities. For those of you who saw the movie The Killing Fields, they emptied the cities, and it was just done with extraordinary level of brutality.
And they targeted intellectuals and
Intellectuals, anyone who had anything to do with a Western nation, anything like that. Unless you were a worker and you could show it with the calluses on your hands, you were probably beaten to death, which is what they did. I had one extraordinary experience out of many, but one in particular that jumps out at me about the brutality, and that is that the Khmer Rouge soldiers were made up of mostly 13-year-olds, 13 and 14-year-olds. And in Cambodia, I met a person who was at that time a Khmer Rouge soldier, and he was 13 at the time. And I was astonished at being confronted by that evil. It's like bumping into a former Gestapo officer or a concentration camp guard at Auschwitz. What do you say to someone like that? And I saw this person, and through a translator, I just looked at him and I said, "Did you kill people?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Many people?" And he said, "Many, many people." You know, I don't know what you say to that afterwards, but you're just looking at evil, and this person has this very innocent face. He looks like a very
well, and
caring.
the brutality of forcing children into the military also, and the scar that leaves, and the changes that causes in a person. 13 is very young.
Very young.
Mm-hmm.
Very young.
So I'm sure it damaged each of those people in ways that are unimaginable.
What do you see nowadays when you go there? Are there reminders of that period still, besides running into people like that and the scene at the orphanage and some of the people there? But you know, when you go through the streets of Phnom Penh or the other large cities, do you see any remains of those days there?
Not really. That's the sad part. You really don't. They do have a museum now, which you'll see in the video. And it's very moving, that museum. We've all seen the video when you see the children's faces. I mean, how many, out of that, they killed over 1 million children. Children.
Like in the show, 1.5 million Jews were wiped out by the Nazis, 1 million...
I mean, what harm could children do? And it just takes your heart out. And you hear a number, when you hear millions, it's a statistic, like 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust. But when you actually see people's faces, it just makes it real. And you're looking at these poor children, and but outside of that museum, Paul, to answer your question, you really don't see much. They don't want to deal with it. They want to put it behind them. And that's part of the problem with that society. You need to deal with it to have closure so you can move on.
Well, did they have trials? I mean, I know that Pol Pot was never tried, but were there trials of other people, like people that were higher up in the military?
Pol Pot was a leader of the Khmer Rouge, and that's true. He died peacefully in his sleep, like most of them do. There really hasn't been much of any. There's been a little bit lately, but basically if you were a Khmer Rouge officer or soldier and you murdered hundreds, thousands of people, perhaps even with your bare hands, you slept well at night. You didn't have to worry about being brought up on charges. It's pretty remarkable and very, very sad.
I think there's one trial now. I think there's one high-ranking official that is facing some kind of charge now.
And this is in the 70s that this happened.
Yes.
Isn't that correct? The 70s.
Yes, mid-70s.
So we're talking about going a long time without repercussions. Even someone is being tried today.
Well, where is all the left wing? Where are all the liberals on the march who went after the Shah of Iran? Nothing.
It was a little embarrassing at the time because the Khmer Rouge were considered a progressive force at the time, and it turned out very bad.
They were considered a progressive force, you're quite
briefly,
right.
Very briefly.
And there was,
then some people continued on and argued that point for a long time afterwards because they weren't willing to come to grips with what was happening, which tells you a lot.
and people were so angry with the United States because of America's involvement in Vietnam and Cambodia that they didn't want to see the evils coming out of Cambodia after the Americans left.
Sort of like with Stalin in Russia, where they refused to recognize what was going on there.
It's often very difficult. Change is difficult. Even for people who maintain change as their ideology, it's difficult to change, right?
It is.
Interesting. It's a human nature thing.
Change always goes to worse. If you're going to have change, it's rare that you're going to get better in the human condition. It is Asia Pacific Month and it is Holocaust Month. It's an interesting combination.
Do we want to play some of the
Yes.
tape? Okay, we're going to go to the video. We're going to go to the DVD. Okay, stand by, and we're going to go right there as we speak.
All right, Harley Lippman.
Hello. August 2006 marked my second trip to Cambodia and the third trip of my daughter Nina. We support an orphanage there outside of Siem Reap where there are children who are orphaned because their parents have died of AIDS or they were abandoned or their parents are just too poor and just basically dropped them off. And this orphanage also helps them learn aspects of Cambodian culture so they could learn a skill that will enable them to have a livelihood and contribute back to their society. To help your English be even better, to improve your English, so we'll practice and see how your English is. Jet, Ajib, Long, Moon, Lake. You see it? Richard, you're looking? Okay. Okay. But I'm going to ask you again, guys. He writes down the words and remembers it. So that's right. Go ahead, Shannon.
Chinese. I'm 15 years old. I live in Sirikap Center. I come to Sirikap maybe 4 years. Because my family is poor. I live in Sirikap. I learn the music.
From Chile. I'm 18 years old. And come here. I live here 6 years. I come here, but because of my family poor, and after my mother killed, had died, and my father bike me. And now I'm learning music and school. I'm learning English.
Learn English.
Yes.
My daughter and I go there to help them learn English. We're doing that so that we can give them something practical. Because the tourist industry in Siem Reap, because of Angkor Wat, attracts a lot of people from around the world. And having a language, especially English, is very helpful for them to find a job and a livelihood. And that's what we're trying to do. Not just throw money at it, but trying to take ourselves and be able to teach them something that they could then use and grow and be able to support themselves and their families in the future. My name is Harley Lippman. What is your name?
My name is Shannon.
Your name?
My name is Shannon.
Your name is Pedal. The children at the orphanage are only a generation removed from the murderous regime of Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge that killed almost 2 million people between 1976 and 1979. As a Jew, I am very sensitive to the ways in which the Cambodian children and their society are still reeling from the devastation brought by this terrible chapter in their history. I, too, am only a generation away from a genocide, the Nazi Holocaust against 6 million Jews during World War II. The horrific realities of that atrocity were brought home to me on a visit that my family took to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum in Israel, a few months after our last trip to Cambodia. While my family was very fortunate, my immediate family, and didn't perish in the Holocaust, I did lose many people in my family that I never got to know. And I feel a special obligation as a Jew, as an American, and as a human being to do whatever I can going forward to make a difference for people who have suffered from genocide and murder, like the Cambodians who were murdered in extraordinary numbers by the Khmer Rouge. And I think it's the world's obligation and for all caring people to do something to make sure where I'm standing now and what I've witnessed in this museum just never, ever happens again. As I walked around Yad Vashem with my family, I suddenly understood why it had been so important for me, in addition to teaching English to the children in the orphanage, to emphasize to them the crucial lesson of never again. Tomorrow we go to Phnom Penh. We go to 2 museums. One museum on the atrocity, Khmer Rouge museum.
យើងទៅលេងសារមន្ទីរគុកទួលស្លែងណាអាហ្នឹងគេហៅ killing field.
Killing fields, yes, yes.
Well, thank you very much. Really, it's my honor that you're all here with us today. We like having visitors. Oops.
Imagine how much impact it has on these children to be able to do this. They'll remember this for the rest of their lives. Really will.
That's why we like to do this. We don't believe that embassies should be fortresses. We believe that embassies should be a place where Cambodians and Americans can get together and talk and get to know each other.
To make people aware of the horrors and the atrocities that occurred by the Khmer Rouge. Many of the children here have been victims of that in one way or another. And it's so important to speak up for those who, didn't have a voice. And that's very courageous of you, and I thank you and applaud you for that. That's very, very important. Here we are now in the Museum of the Genocide, the killing fields, where Pol Pot and Khmer Rouge tortured and murdered over a million Cambodians. Put the faces to this horror. Other victims of the Khmer Rouge.
Look at the pictures of this lady. Yes, they are also suffering by Khmer Rouge. And the Khmer Rouge also, they are very cruel. Before they kill the lady, they rape the lady before killing.
Look at the chain around this boy's neck. These are all the victims. I brought those children to see that prison in Phnom Penh so they could see that evil. And I think through education, we will hopefully be able to stop that evil in mankind that somehow rears its ugly head and seeks to destroy people just because for some reason they don't like them or disagree with them.
I went to visit the killing field of Khmer Rouge, and when I see that, I'm very happy.
Very what?
Very sad and sad. I want to cry, but I'm not crying because I'm a boy. I don't like for Khmer kill Khmer, but I don't know about that.
Teaching children about the evil that lies within human nature may be the only way to help prevent future genocides. And the first step is basic education.
I am a please thank you and your family so much that you pay your time came here to teach you to me and the children. You is a good teacher that I understand. Good. I wish you a good luck every time. Please God help you. I hope that the next time I can speak English very well.
The English will continue. So you'll have a teacher, but I hope this teacher will be helpful to you. So you learn English. So when I come back next year, I want to speak in good English with you. Every one of you, we will have a good discussion. All right? That'll be good motivation for all of you.
Oh, wait.
Wow, amazing, wow. Thank you very much. You think I can learn to do this? This is very good, beautiful.
មានណាចេះលេងលេងគាត់ស្ដាប់មកបាត់ Apaយើងជប់
Bye.
Welcome back to the conversation. I'm Paul DiRienzo, the true host. I'm trying to not block too many people here, but I'm here. We're trying to squeeze ourselves in. That was an incredible video about Cambodia with Harley Lippman.
Yes, it was.
We only got a couple minutes left. Why don't you take it, Shannon, and tell us how we can hear more about this.
Joan Musi and I have had the privilege of hosting Harley Lippman, who actually made the trek all the way to Cambodia to be with an orphanage. Not something I would do.
It was a great vacation as well, by the way. It really was.
Yeah, if you go to Angkor Wat, it's a great vacation.
And
did you learn that instrument? I just heard it at Bowfire, played by
I failed at that.
Wild horses. You had a year to practice. I hope you wanted them to learn English. Did you learn the instrument? I'm a percussionist. You did
we
not.
find the answer to this line of questioning?
Well, I would expect you to improve. Did your family learn the instrument?
In half an hour,
No, we
right?
did not.
Tell them to come back in half an
Come
hour.
back and watch, let them talk at 8 o'clock with the host and hostess Paul and Joan, and Harley will be back, and I may forgive Harley, and I'll be back too, and we'll continue this line of discourse then, and thank you for listening to Blacks and Jews, and not just Blacks and Jews in Conversation.